Welcome back to episode 94 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Troy. Sunday afternoon. It's not in the middle of the night or the very early in the morning, so we're doing good this week and recording at actually a normal hour. But what's going on, Troy?
Not a lot. Actually had a pretty chill weekend. No baseball tournaments or anything like that. Just some minor stuff here and there. So I am well rested.
Major weekend at your house. Come on, you got to
talk about
the news.
Well, I was going to say, I'm thinking about kid stuff where it's like my son just had a couple hockey things. But yes, we did get a puppy. So we have 2 dogs now. Bull Mastiff, same breed as our other one. Our other dog, not very happy about this. She is keeping her distance right now, judging, showing her disappointment. It is pretty funny. The puppy's trying to play with her, and she's having nothing of it. She just walks away. She's upset. Hurt.
She went from a 1 of 1 to an out of 2. So
yeah, now she's out of 2. She'll get over
blame her
Puppy's
for
cute.
that.
Puppy likes to play. It's fun.
So today's show is really our NHL Draft preview. The draft is, of course, Wednesday night. And for the draft, we're doing our second YouTube live show, which will be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 6 p.m. Central Time, where we'll be covering the draft live and discussing the hobby impact of each team's selection, at least through the first round. No determined amount of time. We'll just go until it's either not fun or we run out of stuff to say.
Until I fall asleep, and then we're all right.
So we're going to go till Troy falls asleep. We're working on some special guests, hoping to have George Ross, who is, I think, the director of player personnel for the Spokane Chiefs in the WHL. He will have a lot of hockey knowledge on these draft picks, which would be great because we won't. We're just like everyone else and read some articles here and there, but George scouts these guys for a living. And so really looking forward to his contributions. Again, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Time this Wednesday on the Hockey Cards Gongshow YouTube channel. If you are not already subscribed, please go there and do that so you can get the notification for when the show starts. Lastly, before we get started, just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. That means we rely on the support of listeners like you to help us cover our expenses, produce more and hopefully better hockey card content like our YouTube live shows, and help fund initiatives even in a small way to grow the hockey hobby. Super easy to support us. All you got to do is go to hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link, go to Patreon's website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on right now. And in our link tree, which is in our Instagram and TikTok profile, you can find a link there. It's only $5 a month. You can join our out of 99 support level tier. I think there's a few spots left. We've had so many people that we've been blessed and with an abundance of new supporters. So not exactly sure how many spots are left, maybe 5 to 8, somewhere in there. And speaking of that, we want to thank Joshua Buckingham, David Stone, Brian Cunningham, and Bane Pepper.
Like it.
Bane Pepper. I like that name. Thank you guys a lot from the bottom of our hearts for helping us and supporting our show. We greatly appreciate it. One other note on this, too. If anyone has supported us by Patreon and is not yet in the Discord, and you want a link to do that, go ahead and message us. Probably Instagram is probably the easiest, and we'd be happy to send you a new link. All right, Troy, ready for the game plan?
On today's show, we begin with the greatest NHL player to wear number 94. Next, we take a look at what hockey collectors need to know about the upcoming NHL draft, as well as looking at some draft-eligible players that we feel could have an immediate impact on this upcoming NHL season. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by a look back at what percentage of top draft picks hit. We then continue our O'Reilly Awards by looking at 2022-23 most bankable young goalie. We end the show with new product releases, and surprise, personal pickups is back.
There we go.
Very special episode when we have personal pickups in there. All right, episode 94. The greatest NHL player to wear number 94. Per the Hockey Writer's greatest player to wear each number article is Ryan Smith. All right, overview. He's a left winger from Banff, Alberta. Smith was the 6th overall pick in the 1994 NHL entry draft by the Edmonton Oilers. Smith played in 1,270 regular season games over a 19-season NHL career. Over the course of his career, Smith played 15 seasons with the Edmonton Oilers, along with stints with the New York Islanders, Colorado Avalanche, and Los Angeles Kings. For his awards and accomplishments, Not a lot of NHL awards, but Smith was a one-time NHL All-Star selection. Smith actually enjoyed way more success at the international level, where he won gold with Team Canada at the 95 World Junior Championships, 2002 Winter Olympics, 2003 and 2004 World Championships, and 2004 World Cup. In fact, Josh, he just missed that Stanley Cup to make him a member of the Triple Gold Club. I know you are sad because you keep track of all these Triple Gold Club members. You're probably starting a PC of it. I'm pretty sure you are. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I started the show in a good mood, and now I'm just angry.
Now you're angry?
Hate the Triple Gold Club.
Final thing for awards and accomplishments. Ryan Smith was inducted into the IIHF Hall of Fame.
I didn't know they had one.
Yeah, they have. Oh yeah, if there's an organization, they usually have a Hall of Fame, even if it's just like an online list of players. Over the course of his career, Smith had 386 goals, 456 assists for 842 points. He made the playoffs in 11 of his 19 NHL seasons, compiling 28 goals, 31 assists for 59 points.
Okay, I'm stuck on the Hall of Fame. Sorry.
Yep.
Fun fact. Well, sad fact. So the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame is in Evelyn, Minnesota.
Yeah, no one goes there.
About 25 minutes from where I grew up. Driven by it a million times. Never went there. Not even once.
Yeah, it is you drive by it. It's a small, it's they've done a lot of improvements over the years, but it's just this little building. It's fun. If anyone drives by it, go there. It'll be the best. Be a good hour of your time spent looking around.
Yeah. Back to our regular scheduled program here.
Back to our regular scheduled program. Smith had 10 seasons of 50-plus points and 11 seasons of 20-plus goals. Best season of his career from his point standpoint was his 2000-2001 season, where Smith had 31 goals, 39 assists for 70 points in 82 games played. That's our little stat line, bio, accomplishments, all that stuff. So some of the things people know about Ryan Smith, and I know this. Terrific power forward. He is synonymous with the Edmonton Oilers, and he had a sweet mullet. If you've ever seen a picture of him, he's up in the running for sweetest mullet hockey hair. I'm telling you, the thing had flow. It was awesome. Okay.
Rate it 1 to 10 on the Yager scale.
What's the Yager being the 10? Yeah. Can you even rate anything a Yager? Yager's just in his own class. I would put it like 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Okay.
It's sweet. Okay. Really good flow.
Impressive.
Smith was 6'2", 190 pounds, physical presence, while also contributing greatly to the offensive side with his physical play. Smith was not afraid to bang bodies in front of the opposing net and actually scored many of his goals on tips and rebounds. And when I see that, I went and watched video, and it's true. He would get killed in front of the net. And this is back mid-90s, early 2000s, where I think they hadn't instigated the rules yet where a D can't just cross-check a guy in front of the net unless you're Ryan Suter now, because I guess that still goes on. But he's got back problems to this day still, because like he was saying, Darian Hatcher would just sit there and cross-check him in the back constantly, and they never called it. But he was not afraid to get dirty and get beat up. And I always think of people like that. I think of Dino Ciccarelli when he was with the North Stars. I was just going to call him the big Dino Ciccarelli. Yeah. Ciccarelli would get killed, but then all of a sudden the puck would just pop out, a little rebound, he'd just stick it in and be like, all right, there we go, I got my goal. So Suter gets to cross-check and throw marshmallows, huh? It's funny you said marshmallow. We're going to have a little, not marshmallow, but we're going to talk about something. You'll get it when I read it. Smith was not known for his offensive skill set. And here's a great quote from a former teammate, Steve, and I'm going to say it's Staios. This is how you say it. It's Staios. Here's where I was just talking about. His quote was, he, meaning Ryan Smith, couldn't score from outside 20 feet with his muffin of a shot. So I thought that was pretty funny. But Smith actually scored a lot. Because obviously in front of the net, banging away. But funny thing is, Smith's first goal was literally scored right inside the blue line. I did find that, so that's kind of funny. All right. Now let's talk about Ryan Smith, the person. He was absolutely loved in Edmonton. I don't think I've ever seen of a player where I knew he was a good player, but you Google and look for articles on him, you will find tons of blogs, pundits, reporters that grew up in Edmonton talking about how much love Ryan Smith has in that city. And most of it was like the people of Edmonton, they love how he played the game. He was the heart and the soul of the Oilers when he played there. He played hard every night and played like each game was the last of his career. I can see why the fans love him. In fact, in 2022, he was inducted into the newly formed Edmonton Oilers Hall of Fame. Pretty easy to see why this induction was warranted. Besides the overall fan appreciation for Smith, he ranks second in games played, seventh in goals, ninth in points, and tied for first in power play goals on the Oilers franchise all-time list. And then I wanted to bring this one up too, because this is a great story. Oilers fans will always remember the 2006 NHL playoffs, where in Game 3 of the second round against the San Jose Sharks, as the Oilers are already down 2-0, Smith has his jaw basically destroyed with a puck, loses 3 teeth, lays in a pool of blood, and then just does the typical hockey player thing, gets back up, runs to the locker room, they stitch him up, comes back for the third period, and then in triple overtime sets up the game winner by working his tail off, getting a pass to his teammate, and the Oilers win and would go on to win 4 straight games, or 3 other games after this one, and eliminate the Sharks. I think that's the play that a lot of the Edmonton fans remember him for. But again, it's typical hockey player, right? Get clubbed in the face, teeth falls out, you pick up your teeth, get to the locker room, stitch you up, and away you go.
Well, I always compare hockey players to baseball in that regard, where we and the Twins have Byron Buxton, who's a great baseball player, but he spent 3/4 of his life on the injured list. And it's always because he was eating steak and hurt his tooth. And now he's for 6 weeks on the DL or whatever they call it in Major League Baseball. And yeah, hockey players you have Tkachuk breaking his sternum and going out and playing. And this story with Ryan Smith. Hockey players are just a different breed.
They are. They're a totally different breed. All right, and then the final thing I have, current co-owner of the AJHL, Spruce Grove Saints.
What's the AJHL?
I know that. The Alberta Junior Hockey League.
Oh.
So I did have to look that one up. All right, fun, interesting facts. He wore number 94 as that was the year he was drafted and the year he graduated high school. Having served as captain of Canada's World Championship team for a team record 6 years, 2001 to 05 and 2010, he had the nickname Captain Canada. What do you think? I kind of like it. I like Captain Canada.
I like it.
Also known as Smitty, but that's kind of a fake one because every hockey player is known as something Y.
Whatever.
Gabby, Jonesy, all them. During the morning skate before Smith's 1,000 NHL game, his teammates all wore mullet wigs to honor his accomplishment and his sweet hairstyle. I just like that one, though. That's funny to me. Currently, the Oilers have an unwritten rule that only Hall of Fame players get their number retired. However, it has been stated that the number 94 with the Oilers is synonymous with Ryan Smith, and it is unlikely any player will wear that number for the Oilers, let's just say anytime soon. In fact, in 2019, when Joel Person came to the Oilers and asked for number 94, they told him to pick another number. So while it's not retired officially, it is retired. It's retired unofficially. I don't think they're giving it to anyone.
Well, if he's so beloved, don't you think they should just retire his number?
They have that unwritten rule, though. You got to be in the Hall of Fame. That could change. Who do we just target? We had Toronto, right? Where they wouldn't retire anyone's number until they made a change and they did a mass retirement of 16 players. But think about this. Ryan Smith reminds me kind of like how Mikko Koivu for the Wild. Just, he was there for so long. Fans did love Koivu. I'll admit to that. And they retired his number because of it. So I think Koivu is the only one to have his number retired beside the stupid number 1 that got retired for the fans, which makes no sense. Ryan Smith, should have his number retired. He is, again, like I said, he's absolutely beloved. Found so many awesome articles and memories about Oiler fans talking about him. All right, his rookie card. This was kind of a unique situation. He's got 5 or 6 rookie cards, but there wasn't one that just stood out. This is the most graded copy one. So I actually took the one that was most graded at PSA and the one at BGS and kind of looked at both of them. So his first rookie card I looked at was a 1994 SP, number 142. This was a World Junior card. He had 41 graded copies at PSA. PSA 10 has a Papa 9 with a gem rate of 22%. This thing I could not find any recent sales. The only thing I could find was 2017 for $3.90. I'm guessing. 10? Yeah. Believe me, I had to look at it 100 times. Believe me, it's worth more than that. I can tell you that. But I totally might have missed. I mean, I looked forever trying to find a sale and I just couldn't find it. And then at BGS, his most graded rookie card is a 1994 Topps Finest, number 165. Again, rookie card in his World Junior uniform. The BGS 9.5 is a pop of 11 with a gem rate of 34%. Last sale was via PWCC that I could find on October 16th, 2022 for $26.40.
It is an example of why, or another example of like why the Young Guns is very convenient at times, because no longer do we have to sit there and go, well, what is this guy's rookie card?
Yeah, and he has an Upper Deck card. It's just not a Young Guns. He had an Upper Deck, a Topps Finest, an SP. There's also those Top Finest refractors that had the foiling on them, or not the foiling, but it said peel. You could peel it off if you wanted the refractors that had but those didn't have a lot of graded copies. Yeah, so this was kind of a goofy one, but it is what it is. If you're a Ryan Smith fan, you got to love how cheap his cards are.
With Series 1, Series 2, and Extended, and that being a total of 130 Young Guns, everybody gets one now. So that's no longer a worry either. Okay, we're going to get rolling with the first of a few segments that we have previewing the 2023 NHL Entry Draft, which is this Wednesday. And another reminder to join our YouTube live show starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday on the Hockey Cards Gongshow YouTube channel. And I guess the first place we wanted to start is just some general thoughts and observations and how the draft impacts the hockey hobby. Of course, the most exciting part of the draft, Troy, is it gives us a first glimpse of the annual fresh talent pool for the NHL and a much better idea of what our 2023-24 hockey card rookie crop is going to look like. The way the NHL draft works, though, and how player development happens is different, whereas like in basketball and football, top drafted players pretty much immediately go to their team and start. And they're going to start day one. Victor Wembanyama, all the top 15 NBA draft picks are probably going to play a significant role from the beginning on their team, where I think hockey to some degree is a little more analogous to baseball.
Yeah, baseball would be the absolute bottom where most guys go. Plus they get drafted 15 in high school and
15
crazy
and
stuff.
They don't play for years.
Yeah.
Hockey's kind of that, maybe a better way to put it is more in the middle ground, where you have some players like Connor Bedard who will assuredly start right away. Boy, wouldn't that be funny?
Hopefully.
If it worked out that way. But then you have some players that will stay in Europe or stay in juniors, chill out in the NHL or the AHL for a couple of years. And I think all those things you kind of have to navigate when considering the draft, and particularly when you're looking at your favorite team and if your team has a top pick, as to what you can expect as a collector, as to when, and I guess the soonest opportunity you'll have to collect that player in an NHL jersey. The first order of business, I think, Troy, when your favorite team uses a top pick, is I'd immediately look at the player's pedigree and try to figure out, okay, where is this player from? And you can use sites like Quant Hockey, and there's others that you can go back to their juniors days or even earlier than that and look at their performance and see whether they scored goals or been an assist machine type player, and use that as an indicator of what type of pro it'll be. Of course, all these guys are going to have tons and tons of articles. We mention all the time that The Athletic is really a great resource as far as getting information and scouting reports on these players as well. And then getting back to our first point too, I think that you can use research and all the scouting reports to get some sort of indication of where they think that the player will be slotted as far as what the development process will look like. And I assume once the draft is over, that'll be one of the first questions the reporting pool asks the GM as far as, well, when could we see player X in the NHL team, and get some sort of indication there. But to me, those are kind of I think age factors a lot into that too. And as far as how NHL quote unquote ready they're going to be, especially if these guys are in the 18-year-old range, 18, 19, it could impact how soon they play in the NHL. A really great example is our guy Logan Cooley at the University of Minnesota, who was drafted last draft, number 3 overall by Arizona, played his freshman season with the Golden Gophers, had a great season, was a Hobey Baker finalist as a freshman, helped the Gophers get to the national championship game where something bad happened to Quinnipiac. And I think it was much assumed that he would go into the NHL right away this season because, gosh, what does he have to prove other than winning that final game in the NCAA? And for one reason or another, he decides to stay this year in college. So if you're a Coyotes fan, that would be disappointing as a hockey collector. Can you imagine now adding him to the pool of, I mean, gosh, think how good this Young Guns class could be with Bedard, Fantilli. You're going to have Matthew Nyes, which I don't know, but people are pretty excited about him during the playoffs last year. You're going to have Luke Hughes. And so I think there's going to be a pretty strong Series 1 and Series 2. And we're going to go through the last 6 years of drafts. And you'll see by looking at these players as to when they were drafted and then doing the mental comparison to when their Young Guns came out, that it can be a couple of years in these cases. And in some regards, again, comparing hockey to basketball and football a little bit, it does make the draft maybe a touch less exciting than it would be, knowing that these guys are going to have a significant impact on the team starting right away. The other thing I was thinking about this morning, actually, on my walk, is the NBA Summer League has turned into a really big business. That's where they meet in Las Vegas for a week. And I think there's 2 summer leagues now, something like that. But they get the newly drafted players, and then I think players that are 1 or 2 years that are young, and they do exhibition games throughout the summer to get some experience. I was thinking that would be a great idea for the NHL. So
the NHL could build off this. They actually have kind of something like it's nowhere near as big, but in Minnesota, they have the Beauty League. DA space BEAUTY and then league, and a ton of NHL. Because listen, a lot of NHL players live in Minnesota during the off season, and it's at Braemar Arena in Edina. I think it's free, open to the public. You can go watch NHL players play each other. I think it runs for probably 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month. But yeah, if they could build something big into an official NHL summer league or something for these new prospects. I don't know if does the NBA league have veterans, because the Beauty League has veterans, rookies. They'll have some college guys that are even going back to college, but they'll play in it. So it's a lot of fun. You see a lot of different players at different levels. Now, again, these guys aren't trying like it's the Stanley Cup. They're not dumb. They're not going to get injured, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, in the NBA, it's all young guys. So I know it's rookies, and I think you can have up to 2 years experience. Part of the point of it is to give the rookies just an indoctrination into the league, and I think more comfortable playing at the NBA level coming into training camp. But the other thing it does, which I think again would be also great for the NHL, is you have your top rookies in it too, but you also have guys that maybe didn't get drafted last year that were playing in Europe, where they'll invite to play, and essentially gives them an NBA tryout against NBA caliber players, and so it's great to find those diamond in the rough type players as well. So when we take over for Gary Bettman, we're going to make the Beauty League official in the NHL. I guess that I'll close out kind of our big picture stuff on the draft. And the other thing, just the obvious stuff to keep in mind, is that when you're looking at who your team draft, as you get all excited about having a new player and a new chase, just remember that centers and forwards will typically have the most value. You want to try to find guys that have a goal scoring pedigree of at least 0.5 goals per game in their career to this point, because that is indicative of the potential for a 40-goal scorer in the NHL. And then defensemen and goalies have to be essentially spectacular to really break through, and especially defensemen need to be very offensive.
Yeah, and remember, 99.999% of any goalie drafted will not be on the roster next year in the NHL club, probably.
Yeah. Okay, before we get into players that could have immediate impact, just want to make a quick mention for Gongshow partner and sponsor PWCC and thank them for supporting our show. The current PWCC weekly auction is live. It's just started, so there's plenty of time to get your bids in before this upcoming Sunday night. As of right now, there's 173 cards in the auction, but they get late submissions, so I expect that to go up. You can check them out at pwccmarketplace.com. There's also almost 5,000 hockey cards in the PWCC fixed marketplace. And again, check those out at pwccmarketplace.com. So given what we all like, is we want new rookies now.
Yep.
And we want new chases now. You did a little bit of a research project and tried to identify a couple guys in the draft that you think have a good chance to not only make the team at the start of the season, but could drive potentially some impact into next season. So I'll turn it over to you for your report.
Looking at players in the upcoming draft that could have an immediate impact, I kind of I thought to myself, it's always kind of a crapshoot. Obviously, there are some players we think should step in and immediately contribute to their NHL club. But this will never be a perfect science. It will never be 100% right. However, I tried to identify, I did 4, and one's going to be super obvious, so I guess I cheated. Maybe I should have done 5, because there's one that I think everyone in the world thinks is going to make an immediate impact. But again, this is my list. And remember, a lot of stuff can happen between the draft and the start of the season. Injuries, performance issues, plethora of other things where a player won't start the season on the NHL roster of the team that drafted him. But with all that said, let's look at a couple people who I think could make an immediate impact. Obviously, number 1, Connor Bedard. Center, I don't know what else to say about him. I think we've talked about him, but I'll give a little rundown. Generational talent. You watch video on Bedard, and it looks like he has everything needed to be a solid contributor and make an impact this upcoming NHL season, especially with the team, Chicago Blackhawks, that we think he's going to. The WHL this year, Bedard had 71 goals, 72 for 143 points in 57 games played. He is a potential franchise-changing prospect, has all the offensive skill in the world, with his puck skills and shooting skills being absolutely elite. His real downside is his size. He's 5'9", 185 pounds. There's some thought that 185 pounds, I think, is way over. I would bet it's like 170. I think that's a little high. Obviously, there's some thought that he might be pushed to a wing spot if he can't handle the physicality of playing center in the NHL. That would be interesting, but it's always an option. Plus, entering the NHL season, he will only be 18. And again, that I don't think that's as big as a deal as it used to be. It's never really been a deal. If you can play, teams are going to put you in the roster. It doesn't matter how young you are. And we've seen younger players thrive. And I think Bedard definitely has that skill set to be able to compete and make an impact right out of the gate. Now, again, it's going to be Chicago. They're not going to make the playoffs. I just want to say that real clear.
It'll be really interesting, like unless the other teammates, like an Ivan Barbashev, just hits him really hard that first time.
Do you think
hopefully his shoulder doesn't crumple?
No, I'm telling you, they got to put the black jersey on him from the minute he steps on the ice. No one can touch this guy. Obviously, Chicago will give him every opportunity to make the roster out of camp. This is a team that needs excitement, as they're probably not going to be very good. And having Bedard in the lineup obviously will put people in seats, amp up jersey sales, and create some excitement for their future. And
it's really inconceivable that he wouldn't make the roster out of.
I know. There's always that 1% chance in the back of my head. It's like, well, maybe he'll get injured. Maybe he'll do something stupid, or who knows. Yes, he should be on the opening day roster. At the end of the day, Josh, I think all we care about is when will his Young Guns 101 be pulled and how much will it go for? And let's hope by the time it's pulled, he has about 35 goals, 30 assists, and he's just on a rampage. And he looks like he's a world beater.
I just had the weirdest random thought. I don't know why. I probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm trying to think of scenarios where Connor Bedard wouldn't make the team. And like those Vegas shows with the hypnotist? Like, what if he volunteered to be hypnotized and the hypnotist
made a mistake?
Told him that he forgot how to skate. Like whenever the period horn goes on, he can't remember how to skate. I don't know why. Oh, that'd be terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's a little insight into how Josh's brain works. But that's our first one, Connor Bedard. Next, we're going with Adam Fantilli, who's also a center. I think Fantilli, if you don't have Connor Bedard, Fantilli, I think, would be getting all the hype in the world. He'd be the number one prospect for sure. But
I think he'd be the number one pick, and people would be pretty excited.
Yeah, they'd be pretty excited. I wrote in my notes, I'm like, he's not garnering the generational type hype that Bedard gets. But Fantilli is definitely a player that is ready to make an opening day roster of whoever drafts him and start contributing right away. He had one of the best college seasons in a draft year coming in, I think, almost ever. It was pretty amazing. I'll get to his stat line in a little bit, but Fantilli can skate, shoot, hit, make plays, has a high hockey IQ, and create plays out of nothing. Last year as a freshman at the University of Michigan, Fantilli had 30 goals, 35 assists for 65 points in 36 games played. Oh, and by the way, he also won a thing called the Hobey Baker Award. He's a big kid, 6'2", 195 pounds. You can't tell me Fantilli at 6'2" and Bedard are just 10 pounds separated from each other on the official stat sheets. I don't know. I don't believe it. Fantilli isn't afraid to use his body. He will deliver checks. He'll make the big hits. Teams love that. NHL scouts love that.
What a perfect fit at number 2 for teeny tiny Trevor Zegras, huh?
I know it's got to be Anaheim, right? Like he's got to go there. Like it just seems like.
Or even if Anaheim did get the first pick, and it would be a little bit problematic to have him and Bedard on the same line. That's pretty small, right?
Yeah. But
now you got McTavish, who's pretty big too.
Yeah.
Assuming for a second that Anaheim picks Fantilli, that's pretty intriguing.
Yeah. No, definitely. I was reading a lot about that, and there's some pretty interesting what ifs if he can go there. All right, with his tool set, he can be a top 6 forward in the league and possibly a number 1 center. The knock on him is he hasn't played the greatest at the international level, but I obviously don't think that will stop him from making the open night roster, whoever drafts him. He's shown he's got the pedigree. He's got all the skills or all the tools in the world. Plus, he's physical. I think he definitely makes the opening night roster of whoever drafts him. And if it's Anaheim, that's really intriguing. We're going on. Number 3, I actually wanted to find a defenseman. And the ones I looked at, the one I found that I was pretty intrigued by, and it seems like some of the scouts and most of the pundits are too, is David Reinbacher. He's Austrian-born Swiss defenseman, has a fantastic skill set, and probably is the most ready of any defenseman in this draft to make an impact in the NHL right away. However, it's not a given, but he's 6'2". He has strong defensive IQ. He has an offensive component to his game that for the right team might make him a very interesting player to put on their opening night roster and have him make an impact. Reinbacher was a top 4 defenseman for his NLA team, which is a Swiss league team he played for this season. He had the second most productive draft season by a player in NLA history behind, check this out, Austin Matthews, and by far the best by a defenseman. I thought that was, I actually had to go search Austin Matthews. Did he play in the NLA in Switzerland? And yep, yes, he did. In fact, it was the second most points by an under 19 defenseman in the National League behind Roman Josi, who had 24 points in 42 games in 2008-09. So this guy definitely has the pedigree. He's definitely got a skill set. From a defensive standpoint, Reinbacher has great gap control. He's quick, close on guys, interrupt plays, and he's an intense battler in the corner and usually comes away with the puck if it's one-on-one. Also, he should be able to find himself on the power play, as he has all the skills you like to see from a D-man when you put him on the power play. And he can kind of be a fifth forward out there because 99% of power plays now are run with 4 forwards and a D. And having him out there, he's almost like a fifth forward out there, which is a good thing. Now, here's the problem. Looking at his pedigree, not the biggest goal scorer. Solid D-man, gets his points, but they're mainly with assists. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this guy.
Maybe the Roman Josi comparison is very apt.
Exactly. That's exactly a great point. So I think this is the one D that is probably the most NHL ready and could be on a roster and make an impact, especially if he gets put on a power play unit or a PP1 unit. There's definitely some room there. But again, it might be an assist machine situation. Last one. Okay, Josh, teams like centers. Do you know that? They really like centers.
They do because the Wild don't.
The Wild don't.
Or Kaprizov has like Sam Steele and a traveling band of 38-year-old AHL players that centers his line. So,
yep. So most teams, besides the Wild, like centers, especially highly skilled offensive centers. And when looking at the rest of the list, now remember all the guys I've told you about are within, I think, the top 6 prospects in this draft. But I'm putting Leo Carlsson on the list. 6'3" center from Sweden. Carlsson is an absolute gifted playmaker. He's had a knack for finding teammates and scoring when needed. He isn't afraid to attack the net and take things into his own hands when needed. And I tried to find some footage on him. And man, he's a little shifty guy, and he is definitely not afraid. There was times where he just cuts right in and goes straight at the goalie and maybe doesn't try to stop in the right amount of time. Kind of takes him out. But he is definitely creative. You just see he's got hands, given his creativity. This is the one thing that I really liked about him when I watched video and kind of read some stuff. He's extremely capable of running a power play through him, which if you can be the guy that runs the power play and they feed everything to you, and go through you. I always think of Nathan McKinnon at Colorado. If you ever watch them, he leads that power play is run through him no matter where he is on the ice, and they use him as the setup and they try to get him open and all that stuff. Now, if you come into the league at a young age and you can be the guy already, that's a huge skill set to have. One drawback to Carlson's game, he is not the fastest guy. He really doesn't separate. He doesn't have that, they call it separation speed, where he can just fly by you and take you out and you spin around and fall down. But he's definitely really smart and makes up for his speed with being in the right position. He can play wing if needed. He's a center by his natural position is center, but he has been played at wing a couple times in his career. And this is a guy I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for this guy because I was reading a profile on him, and he struggles with stuttering. And he's one of those guys that just lives with it. He went to speech therapy, said once, and didn't like it. So he has interviews. He stutters all the time, but he keeps going at it. And I root for people like that. I root for those kind of stories. So that
Could he fall to 21 to our Minnesota Wild here?
What's that? Oh,
you think he would?
No. I highly doubt it. He'll be top 6 probably.
Maybe let's throw out some like off-field issue or off-ice issue story. And
we'll start the rumor mill. Yeah,
they had that guy in the NBA draft that was supposed to be a top 10 pick and went 20. So maybe.
Yeah,
but I think he had some off-court stuff going on. All right, so there's 4 guys. Leo Carlsson, who's the defenseman.
David Reinbacher,
and then Fantilli and Bedard, which were layups. But
yeah, those were layups.
Got to have them.
And again, like you notice, no goalies. I highly doubt any of the goalies drafted will make a starting opening day roster. I hope they do, but I highly doubt it.
We've been hearing about all-world Jesper Wallstedt for years now.
Yeah.
And he can't even sniff the
NHL. He might. I think this year he might get up. We might have him this year.
A couple hobby news things we want to cover real quick. We are going to get back to the NHL draft, but I thought this is kind of interesting. Not maybe this story totally in of itself, but more is this part of a larger thing that's happening. So do we think, Troy, that we're moving into a player empowerment era now for hockey, where a lot of basketball analogies today, but in basketball for a long time, really started by LeBron, to some degree, star players are able to dictate where they go and where they play. And we're seeing this more and more, really starting last year with Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, where they both informed the Calgary Flames that they wouldn't be resigning and were moved to Columbus and Florida, respectively, as a result. Then this offseason, we've already seen this happen with Alex DeBrincat, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and now going back to the Flames. Geez, everyone wants out of there.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Toffoli
has
done the same. So the 31-year-old Flames forward, he had a career year this year with 34 goals, 39 assists for 73 points in 82 games play. Doesn't have a big hobby market, of course, but again, just adding it to the growing list of these players that are exerting their power. It seems like when they get like 1 year left in their contract and they're pretty favorable, I guess, trade asset at that point, they're just going to their team and saying, just so you know, I'm not going to resign here. So you might want to trade me now and at least get something for me at that point. So that's my big question is, do you think that this is indicative of a trend that's only going to grow? And when we're talking about Tkachuk was a big name, of course, and Gaudreau a bigger name, but could we see this in the Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid kind of superstar level in the not too distant future?
Yeah, I have some thoughts about this, and I'm going to go rambling because I was thinking of them as you were talking. I don't know if it's becoming more prevalent, but I definitely bet we're hearing about it more. I feel like the whole landscape of how media is reported, we definitely hear things. Look at even when I've done those, the player profiles on the episode numbers, like Doug Gilmour had a contract holdout. Almost every one of those guys I've talked about at some point, like the bigger guys, Alexander McGillney had contract issues or disputes, wanted out, but they did end up getting traded or something. So I don't think it's new, but it might be we hear about it more. And I'm all for players taking control of what their career is going to do. I am way more pro player than I am pro organizations. And to me, pro sports is really weird because fans and people expect them to be like so loyal to one team or be loyal to your fan base, your family. No, you're not. It's a job. It's a job to these guys. Like people that work for a corporation, they're not your family. They will get rid of you the second they don't need you. And that kind of stuff, I think, is getting its way into pro sports now. And these players are just I have no problem with it. Take control of your career and do what you think is best. And if that means you have to tell a team that you're not going to sign or you want out, tell them instead of making your life miserable. So that's my thoughts on it.
You're probably right. I think they're just using them, like you said, the media to their advantage now. When you throw it out there that publicly that you're not going to resign with the team, it puts your team in a position to really not keep you because there's a breaking of the bond there, or I guess whatever you want to call it. And I totally agree with you too on the players should advocate for themselves. Because when you think about, I'm sure people have done the numbers, but the percentage of players that get to end their career on their terms has to be less than 5%, right? Sidney Crosby will end his career on his terms, but 98% of players don't get, they're brought into the office and they said, your hockey career is over.
Yeah, I think
one day.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just these players they're so smart. They're so savvy. They're media savvy. They have agents, right, that are media savvy. These guys go into contract negotiations with their own whole arsenal of stats, or their agent will have all the stats. Because you can't rely on the team to give you to come with their stats. They're going to try to get pay you the least amount of money they can. So these players hire their own stat guys that come up with advanced analytics on their end too. So yeah, I think it's definitely a new world in light of that, with how savvy the players and the agents are.
100%. Okay, the last story in hobby news is a good one. Spencer Knight, Troy, the young 22-year-old Panther goalie, which is incredible how much NHL time he had at that young of an age, had left the team on February 24th, taking a personal leave of absence and entering the NHL's player assistance program. Well, the Panthers just announced a couple days ago that he'll be back. He's back in the gym and on the ice training right now, and he's scheduled to rejoin the team in the fall. Not much else to say other than it's great news for him, great news for Panthers fans, hockey collectors, and everybody. And hopefully he was able to successfully deal with whatever was troubling him, and we'll be able to put that behind him.
Yeah, I was wondering, so by training, does that mean he's out of the program, or is he allowed to train while still in the program? I guess
They said he's in Connecticut. I'm assuming he's doing private training, but in the article I read, the Panthers GM, and I think Paul Maurice too, are communicating with him regularly and saying that he's doing well. They're not allowed, for very appropriate reasons, to discuss any of the circumstances as to why he's in the player assistance program, but they're comfortable enough to report at this point that he is in the gym. He looks like he's in good shape, I guess. He's on the ice doing training. And like I said, will rejoin the team in the fall. And rightfully so. Again, we hadn't heard anything for months on him. So it's great to get that news. And it's like having him back in the fold.
And just to reiterate, hearing nothing on him was actually good news, because it means the program's working.
100%. Totally agree with that. Okay, let's get back to the NHL draft. I thought it would be interesting, Troy, to do a little bit of a look backwards and see what percentage of these guys that are picked in the first round, really, because they're the ones that are going to have the most hype coming into the league, and a lot of people chasing their young guns and other rookie cards. And over time, how many of them kind of stick and are maintained hobby relevance since they were drafted. The criteria we used for relevance is their Young Gun PSA 10 values at $75 or higher. In the current hobby market, that seemed to be a decent threshold. I looked, Troy, at the 2015 through 2020 draft class. I didn't use 2021 and 2022 because so many of those guys are still not playing yet. And it even gets a little sketchy when you get into the 2020 draft, as you'll see. But I wanted to give a couple of years for the development process to have its effect, I guess, on most of the guys, at least in the first round. I'll be interested to see if this surprises you, how many guys in each draft are at least have a PSA 10 Young Guns value of $75 or more. So starting with 2015 draft class, there was 30 teams at that point, so 30 first-round picks. We had 5 players with Young Guns that have a PSA 10 value of $75 or more, about 17% of the first round. So it's Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, Mikko Rantanen, and Kyle Connor. Anybody surprised on that list?
No, I can live with. I mean, maybe Kyle Connor. I don't know. That's the one that I thought jumped out at me. But the rest of them I'm fine with. Jack Eichel, just to give everyone an update because everyone cares. I just sold my jambalaya today. of Jack Eichel that I've been
complaining
about for the last month.
God.
But thank God it's sold. Now we'll never talk about it again.
Thank you. 2016 had, again, 5 guys whose Young Guns PSA 10s are worth $75 or more. Again, 17% because there's 30 teams. So you have Austin Matthews, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Matthew Tkachuk, Clayton Keller, and Tage Thompson. Pretty much no-brainers there. I didn't want to read like all 30 picks for...
Why not?
Because that would have just been awful. But there were a bunch of players that I ended up probably looking up 10, 12 guys every year.
Do you think?
And a lot of guys are in the $50, $60 range right now.
I was like, do you think Clayton Keller did he recently get over 75 or around that threshold?
He had a really good year last year.
Really good year. The Pierre-Luc Dubois, I just don't follow Winnipeg enough.
He's one of those guys that have asked out. And there's some wild steam with that.
Yeah.
So you're ready to get your Pierre-Luc Dubois wild jersey.
Yeah, then he'll immediately score 5 goals, 20 assists, and be stuck in purgatory here.
We had 5 players in 2015 draft, 5 players in the 2016 draft. It drops down to 3 players in the 2017 draft that have a current Young Gun PSA 10 value of $75 or more. So that'd be Cale Makar, Elias Pettersson, and Nick Suzuki. Interesting note here, the number 1 overall pick that year, Nico Hischier, current value of his Young Gun PSA 10 is about $62. So your number 1 pick, he's a pretty good player, just I don't think a big goal scorer and not a lot of hobby hype. Then in 2018, 4 of the 31 first-round picks had Young Guns PSA 10 values of $75 or greater. It's about 13% of the overall picks. That's Rasmus Dahlin, Andrei Svechnikov, Brady Tkachuk, and Quinn Hughes. 2019, we're back to 5 players at $75 or more. Jack Hughes, Kirby Dach.
What?
Does that surprise you? Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, he must. When he got moved, I'm guessing. So there was some hype there, hoping he would do something. What was it, Ottawa? Is that where he went? No, that thing at DeBrincat. Where did Doc go?
I don't even know.
Hold on, we'll look him up.
Oh, he went to Montreal.
That's right, Montreal. God, I knew it was some Canadian team.
That's probably why.
Yeah, but I'm guessing there was some of the. Yeah, because he's still so young. He's like 22.
This is too now where we start to see. Going back to our early conversation in our draft preview episode here, where sometimes it takes the guys, even really big names, a couple of years. Our next 3 names, and remember, this is the 2019 draft, are Trevor Zegras, Matt Boldy, and Cole Caulfield, right? So both Zegras and Caulfield are 2021 Young Guns, and Boldy's a 2022 Young Gun.
Yep.
So that's where we might have to cool our jets and some of these guys that are taken on Wednesday. And then lastly, looked at the 2020 NHL entry draft. To this point, there's 4 players with Young Gun PSA 10 values at $75 or greater, 13% of the first-round picks. You have Alexis Lafreniere.
How close is he? How close is he to 75? Like, how close is he to that threshold?
87, something like that. It keeps trending down. Yeah. Then you have Tim Stützle, he's one of the best young players in the league. Not surprised there. And then you got a couple guys where... I think this is more circumstantial, maybe, than the merits of their play. Not that they're not promising, but you have Jake Sanderson, who had a decent rookie year for a defenseman, had a pretty good streak this year, but he was a Series 2 guy, and I think we're just getting the first Young Gun PSA 10s back, a little pop, and when that happens, we know they always go for insane money, and so I don't think that'll be anywhere near $75 6 months from now, unless he lights the world on fire at the start of the next season. And then the other guy is Lucas Reichel, who's got the Bedard multiplier.
Still one of my favorite things of that whole draft lottery night is the updates on how his Young Guns were selling like hotcakes, and ComC was going out of them, and it was just hilarious.
Now, looking at what does this all prove? I think there's 2 takeaways that I had. Number 1, there's not going to be 12 guys in this draft on Wednesday that are going to be big-time hobby chases. There's going to be 3 to 5 on average, probably. And the trick is going to be, of course, between now and over the next couple of years is us all together in the collective hobby trying to figure out, okay, who are these guys going to be? Where should I be putting my money? And who are the guys I should be holding on to when I pull out of packs versus just selling high early? And then the second is, again, it's another good example that just because, like in the case of Caulfield and Zegras, just because you're drafted in 2019, you may not see significant, playing time in the NHL for a little bit, and then your Young Guns is going to fall behind that, depending on when you hit the ice originally. The other thing that I just struck me too is Caulfield's become a really big chase, especially with all these new products. He was something like the 10th or 11th pick.
Well, yeah, there's always one of those guys that pops out
in 2019. So what a great pick by the Canadians. Anything surprise you on this? Is it about as many players as you would have thought?
Yeah, I mean, I would have guessed maybe 4 to 6. I guess I would probably guess, but now that I see the numbers, I'm right in that range. But that sounds about right and again, it's hobby relevance. We're not talking about these making the NHL. It's not 4 guys making the NHL. It's just who's going to be a hobby relevant chase, and that sounds about right because again, it's how we've seen it play out.
Going to make a quick Slab Sharks mention as well, our Gong Show partner and sponsor. Thank them very much for supporting our show and the hobby community. The current and very popular, I might add, weekly Slab Sharks eBay auction is live. Will end this coming Thursday night. Some great hockey cards in this week's auction, Troy, like a 1951 Parkhurst Ted Lindsay PSA 8. That's a high grade. How about a 2021 SP Authentic Sign of the Times 8?
Yeah, that's sick.
8 players auto. Gretzky, Bossy, Yzerman, Patrick Waugh, Ray Bourque, Paul Coffey, Mike Gartner, and Cam Neely. Trails off a little there at the end, but still, all great players, and a very good card. There's a 2021 SP Authentic Jeremy Swayman Future Watch Auto, who we'll be talking about in a minute. And then also a 2022 Upper Deck Matte Gold Boldy Young Guns French Tag 10. Kind of an interesting card in the tag holder there. And speaking of the Slab Sharks auction, Troy, you kind of went hog wild in last week's Slab Sharks auction. Yeah, so Troy representing the Gong Show, you clear them out on Marvel boxes?
Marvel Alert boxes, which these are probably just single boxes that the case that was already hit out of it, and they decided to sell these. Someone did, because it's not like Slab Sharks is doing it. They just get stuff in. But yeah, they were a very decent price, so I grabbed them. And then I also bought a hockey card, but we'll get to that at the end.
We'll get to that. If you're a Canadian hockey card collector and are looking to move some of your cards from cash, we'd recommend Slab Sharks eBay consignment service. They make it super easy to list, sell, and ship your cards in their popular and growing weekly auctions because, well, Troy, they do all the work. They even ship to the U.S., exposing your cards to a larger pool of buyers. You can head to slabsharks.com for complete consignment information and get started selling your cards today. Now we're back to the O'Reillys.
I know. I feel like we need like opera music, or not opera music, but like award show music, right? And now back to the O'Reillys. Yeah.
Music plays in my head. It's that stupid auto part. Every time I say it, commercial plays in my head. We wanted to do something with goalies, and goalies is a little bit tricky because sometimes the best goalie, I mean, that's already got an award. That's the Vezina Trophy in the NHL. And we wanted to keep our O'Reilly's awards very hobby focused. And so we thought, well, let's look at most bankable young goalie, meaning who's the guy that if you put some money into today, get some really nice cards, has the best chance of giving you a big return in the future, somewhere down the road. So you're not going to find like a Linus Ullmark as one of our candidates, even though he probably had the best season because he's, 29 years old. He did have, of course, a ridiculous year, but he was a lot more average his prior 6 NHL seasons. So even with a guy like him, the big question is going to be, was that an anomaly this past year, or is it more indicative of things to come? So I think not only does his age not qualify him as young, but I would say that because if his past experience, that it's hard to say he's bankable to begin with. So we're going to run through. We came up with 4 candidates, but last thing again before we do, our sort of standard disclaimer: this is not investment advice. Do your own research, make your own choices. Don't blow Timmy's college money on what we say. Or Timmy, don't want to do that. First he falls in the well, and then he has no college money. Here's the 4 candidates we came up with: Jake Ottinger, Philip Gustafsson, Ilya Sorokin, and the aforementioned Jeremy Swayman. So I'm going to run through each of them, kind of give some highlights, why I selected them as a finalist. Then I'm going to make my pick. Well, we're going to let Troy go first because he's our resident goalie expert. Troy's going to make his pick. And then, like we always do with the O'Reillys, we did a listener and follower poll on Instagram. We'll get those results, and hopefully we'll have at least a winning majority, and we'll award the O'Reilly to one of these fine young goalies. Oh, I do want to make a mention, too. We did get a note, or a couple notes on our poll, or I guess responses, about Pyotr Kochetkov. I didn't include him because he didn't play enough games. He is very young and promising, but
Yeah.
he had a short stint, and that's really about it, and spent most of the year in the AHL. So, Troy, Jake Ottinger, hometown kid.
Yeah.
Here in our little small town in the Twin Cities area. One of the best young goalie prospects in the NHL. Very young for a goalie at 24 years old. He burst into the hobby consciousness in the 2021 playoffs, where he was amazing, and hobby hopes were very high coming into 2022-23. In the regular season, he improved his performance over 2021, going 37, 11, and 11 in 61 games started. Troy with a 2.37 goals against, .919 save percentage, which tied him for third in the NHL in games played, seventh in goals against, and sixth in save percentage. A little more up and down this year in the playoffs, went 10-9 in 19 games started, 3.06 goals against, .895 save percentage. His 2020 Young Gun PSA 10 Pop 860 last sold for $62. At the start of the 2022 NHL season, was selling for like 128, so it is down 52%. Interesting note, though, on his Young Gun PSA 10, population count is on October 7th at the start of the season, again, where it was $128. The pop was 201. Now it's 860. So maybe his little bit of average playoff performance probably has a little bit of factor, the market going down a little bit, and the fact that his pop count is almost was more than four times greater, that has to factor into it too. Looking at other cards, I used Card Ladder sales history, and they showed 2,675 Ottinger cards have sold since the start of the 2022 season. Top sales, a 2020 SB Authentic Future Watch Auto Black PSA 9 that went for $1,624 US in January. And since the start of the season, he's had 18 sales at more than $500 US. So that's his case for most bankable young goalie. Any particular thoughts on Ottinger?
Fantastic goalie. I love that he's from Minnesota, so we got to pull that in there. I think, though, if you're thinking about him from a bankable perspective, it's not that Young Guns. Don't think of the Young Guns as being a bankable card. I think you want to stretch your card selection a little bit greater than that Young Guns card. But yeah, I am a big fan of Ottinger. Love how he competes. I love his size. I don't know what the right word is. He did struggle during the playoffs, but I still think he has a bright future in front of him.
Okay, next guy is Philip Gustafson. Maybe our most controversial candidate. Came a little out of nowhere this year. Maybe accused us of being homers since he's a wild goalie. But it's hard to ignore the season that he had, though, splitting time with Flower after only starting 16 games in the prior season with Ottawa. This past year, Troy, he finished 22-9-7 in 37 games started with a 2.10 goals against and a .931 save percentage. Good enough for second in the NHL in goals against and save percentage. Only behind fellow Swede, Linus Ullmark. Pretty good.
I have an opinion on that.
Okay.
I don't know if you want it now or at the end, but I'll just say it now. I think part of that, though, is due to the structure. This always happens with Minnesota Wild. We are a very good defensively structured team until you get us to the penalty kill, then we fall apart. But our 5-on-5 defense is usually pretty decent, and we can do a good job of limiting shots. And I think goalies kind of can build off of that unless you're Dubnyk and you can't stop a thing. But I think Gustafson's numbers partly were in response to that. Again, having him, I'm already getting into my thoughts. Being in Minnesota, I don't know how this guy ever gets a lot of hobby level being a goalie for the Wild. So that's one thing that I'd worry about with him.
Relatively young at 25, so he should have lots of good years left. And I think kind of what maybe a little bit what you're saying too is the key question I have is, can he be as good next season? Is this a one-hit wonder type year, or do we see this being the consistent performance for him? Last sale on his 2020 Young Gun PSA 10 Pop 85. Big difference between Ottinger's 860.
Yeah.
$40 US. Troy, he was so under the radar this year that he didn't even have a Young Gun PSA 10 sale until February 19th when it went for 104. So it's down pretty significantly since then. Top sales since the start of the season, though, $1,880 US. Big number for his 97 Retro Gold PMG 101. The only sale he has as well that's over $500. And 1,108 Gus cards have sold since October 7th. I get what you're saying about the system and structure, but couldn't you say that about like Sorokin and Swayman too? We'll talk about next.
Well, I wouldn't say about Sorokin and the Islanders. I don't think they're.
I thought that they were a very good defensive
team.
They
might be. They were. Weren't they like last or something? Am I misremembering?
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Wouldn't be a giant surprise to anyone. Okay, we'll move on to Sorokin. He's 27, finished his third NHL season, which went 31, 22, and 7 in 60 games started with 2.34 goals against and .924 save percentage. Good enough for fifth in goals against and third for save percentage in the NHL. In this year's playoffs, he was 2-4 in 6 games started with a 2.6 goals against average and a .929 save percentage. Boy, I look at that, like, especially that .929 save percentage, and you're only 2-4 in the play. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Sorokin to me is just, he's so good. And I'm a complete bonehead. Islanders are fourth in their division. So forget what I just said at the beginning. Yeah. You're probably right. It probably is part of their structure that helps him. But again, I've said this a bunch on this show. Sorokin's most technically gifted goalie out there right now. He is just fantastic. So I'll let you keep going before we.
Well, I'm going to turn it back to you in a second because that does seem, that's a consensus I always hear, whether I'm reading articles or listening to the TV guys. They tend to heap praise on him. So why is that? Well, what is it just that he's so technically sound? Is that what it boils down to? Like
very minimal movements. You can see like he reads things. He beats passes all the time, which is very hard in the NHL. These guys are so good at deceptive passing. You know they're passing and they'll pass it, but I'm going to say something like half the time he's already over there, waiting for the shot because he anticipated that pass. He's just very good at his movements. He doesn't waste a lot of movements. He is just by far to me the most technically gifted goalie right now in the NHL.
Okay. Since the start of last season, 2,688 Sorokin cards have sold according to Card Ladder sales history. His 2020 Young Gun PSA 10 pop 831, so very similar to Ottinger. Last sold for $65 US. It was selling at 110 at the start of last season. Biggest sale during the season, Troy, was a whopping $7,200 for his 2020 The Cup Black Rookie Auto 101 this past April. And a pretty big number, 29 of his cards since October 7th have sold for $500 or more. So he, of these four guys, has the biggest high-end market. Like,
is there any more room? That would be my worry with him.
And then the last candidate is Jeremy Swayman, another younger guy, 24 years old. Like Gustafsson, he split time this season with Linus Ullmark and kind of took a back time seat to the all-time season Ullmark had. What might have been lost in that, though, to some degree, is Swayman was really good, too. He was 24-6-4 in 33 games started with 2.27 goals against and .920 save percentage. Good for fourth in the NHL in goals against and fourth in save percentage. What a tandem the Bruins had this past year.
That was crazy.
Now, in the playoffs, the Bruins mainly rode Ullmark in their first round series, lost to Florida. Swayman did start one game, wasn't fantastic. I'm assuming injuries aside that they'll end up splitting time again this next year. So where do you put Swayman in this list? Have you seen much of his game or read much about him?
I haven't watched him enough to know about him. I know he's good. I know he's young. When you have two goalies playing so well, it's really hard to separate yourself, and you have that team in front of you. So I actually wouldn't mind if Swayman moved somewhere else, so I could see him when he's like the number one guy getting 60 starts. But that's probably
funny. I was just going to ask you about that because, and I know you're a goalie coach, so this is probably an unfair question because you're just going to hoard goalies on your team. If you're the GM, knowing that every team has holes, if you have this Ullmark Swayman talent, are you keeping that together and essentially giving yourself a hedge against injury in particular to one of your goalies, or are you moving one of them to try to maybe fill a hole on scoring or defense or something?
I would keep them unless I realize I can win a cup and I'm missing that one piece that maybe trading Ullmark would give you, because I'd probably want to keep Swayman since he's younger. If I really have confidence in him, I want the younger guy because I can ride him longer in the future rather than Ullmark, who's 29, 30 probably by the time the season starts. That's what I would.
Or even getting back to the Wild and Gus, where they have Flower, Gus, and Wallstedt. That seems too redundant. Yep. And given we could desperately need a center, it's like maybe they should move one of those guys. But okay, so there's our four guys that we nominated: Ottinger, Gustafsson, Swayman, and Sorokin. All right, Troy, who are you casting your vote for?
When I originally did this, I started writing down my thoughts. I thought I would lean to Sorokin, but I'm actually going Ottinger because I feel Sorokin's had a pretty good run on his stuff and his values. While I think Sorokin's a better technical goalie, I think Ottinger's close behind. And if I'm looking at, let's say, bankable or growth, I think I'm leaning towards Ottinger. it probably helps that he had kind of those down playoffs this year, not the spectacular run he had 2 or 3 years ago. So I think I'm leaning toward Ottinger.
I'm going to cast my vote for Sorokin. He seems to have the most hobby momentum so far, and especially in the higher end stuff, as I mentioned. My big concern, if I had one, is the team, and can they score enough goals to support him and win enough games and be relevant in the playoffs, where I think, to your point, Ottinger has a better situation around the young team around him. So it's just like last week, it's 1-1. Would go to the tiebreak.
I was going to say, would Sorokin's age worry you at all?
I would have a year ago, but now that you've told me that goalies play are
they peak later usually. Yep.
It worries me if he's Podkolzin.
Fair enough.
No, it's not Podkolzin. Who's the guy? Kuzmenko.
Kuzmenko, yeah.
Yeah, I was getting my Russian Canucks because I think they're the same age, but it seems like 27 is still young. Or am I wrong? Is 27 older in your mind?
I don't know. It's right that I always think of 28. It's like when goalies they peak a lot later, and it's usually around that 28 years old.
As I mentioned earlier, we did another Instagram poll to our show listeners and social media followers, and here's the results. The winner was Jake Ottinger, 47% of the vote. Second was Ilya Sorokin, 34%. Jeremy Swayman at 15%. And our guy Gus only
didn't get any
measly 4%.
That's why you don't go with Gus, because no one knows who he is, and he's on the Wild.
Just like last week, Troy and the listeners outvote Josh. And the O'Reilly, the most bankable young goalie in the NHL for 2022-23 season, goes to your guy, Jake Ottinger. Is he going to come on to accept his award, or what?
I should just walk by his parents' house and
bang on the door.
No, just keep walking by until he runs or until he comes up. Oh, hey, how's it going?
Got a trophy for you.
I got a trophy for you. Here's your O'Reilly. Throw it at him and run.
A lot going on, Troy, new product releases, so we're going to switch over to there real quick. I have a couple notes on 2021 Fleer Ultra, which, as you recall, is the EPAC exclusive that released a couple weeks ago. Because the ComC scans were no bueno, not good, bad. They're just bad. They were blurry and dull, and they didn't make the cards look good. I wanted to see what our quote-unquote hits were like in person to really get a flavor for what the set is really like, and those came the other day. Showed them to you as well. They are, what's an adjective to describe how much better they are in hand versus in the scans?
If I'm upper deck, I'm very angry. I knew the ComC scans were bad. They looked bad. And we heard they were bad. But then I saw the cards in hand, and boy, they're really, really, really bad. Like, the cards look really nice. Like, the shiny and all that, the medallions, they look fantastic. You would not expect the card you saw, the physical card, would look like it did from the ComC scans because they were so bad. And it's going to hamper this product. You know, we can only reach so many people, but there's other people who probably don't know how bad those scans are, and maybe they've seen them and be like, I ain't buying that product, but I would be upset if I was upper deck.
I have nothing against ComC, so I don't mean this in any sort of way, but it's just more really, I think, speaking the truth, is there's really not an excuse for it. I don't know what the issue is to where the responsibility lies, so it's not even worth speculating there. But I think of our partner PWCC and how many cards, like, because they don't just do hockey, they have 10,000 cards sometime in their weekly auction. Their pictures are perfect.
Yeah.
Their scans are amazing. Better than you or I could do at home with our camera. And that's the way it should be, right? They should be capable of taking pictures in my dopey than I can in my dopey office with my terrible lighting. I agree with you that I would be really disappointed and worried because so much work goes into building these sets, and these cards do look really nice. As you mentioned, the medallions really pop. There was one. What is it? The
Pop Cultures?
Pop Cultures looked really good. There's the Enforcer focused one. Oh, it's right here. The slot machines. And you had mentioned, too, that you like this one.
Yeah, for sure.
They all look great. Oh, the best one, though, was the
black one.
We got a silver foil rookie. I don't think it's come out in our videos. So it's just the base, but it's a silver foil parallel. Looks awesome in hand.
I thought what was the black card? There was a black card that I thought looked really nice. Like the writing on it looked super sharp.
Rink Masters. Yep.
That was the one I really, really liked.
Mm-hmm. They all look really good. I think when you get these cards in hand, and this could be a set that maybe builds over time, that right away is going to be slow and disappointing because all we can go off of as collectors is what we see. And what we see are these dull, blurry images that make the cards not look as nice as they are. Just wanted to throw that out there, that we did get them in hand and that they're really nice. It doesn't mean, though, that there aren't QC issues. I think a lot of people would have the perception that, okay, these are cards that are coming from ComC, weren't packed out, weren't opened, maybe all those reasons why a corner could be dinged.
Yeah.
But a lot of cards have the same sort of QC issues that we would expect from pack pull cards. So just remember that as well. Want to move to some observations on OPG Platinum, Troy. A number of huge cards have already been pulled, including probably the biggest card in the set, which I'm always bummed out by. I hate when on the first day, like the biggest card gets pulled. What I'm talking about is the Cole Caulfield Rookie Autos Golden Treasures 101. Card, of course, is on eBay with the buy it now. When you originally sent me the screenshot, they were asking a ridiculous like $198,000 or something like that. They did drop the price to about $80,000. I've wondered for a long time, Troy, why people do that. Like, why do they list these cards with such insane prices? And I had a thought that, or I guess maybe a reason why you might want to do that is as an attention grabber. You want a lot of people, because look what happened. You send me the screenshot. You're like, oh, look at this. They've listed the card for $200,000, right? And that drives me to the eBay page. So maybe it's a smart strategy in that regard. They did lower the price to $80,000. So is that indicative of the hockey market where it's lost
hockey markets?
It's lost $120,000 in value in 2 days.
Yeah, and just to let everyone know, the people that pulled this is actually a card shop in the Twin Cities. They're up northern suburb, like Coon Rapids or I can't remember what they're in the mall.
Coon Rapids. What mall is that again?
I don't know. It's one of Northtown, maybe. Does that sound right? But
yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah, they're a local card shop here.
It did make me think, like, well, what is this card really worth? We know it's not worth 80.
No,
it certainly wasn't worth 200. I did look up the high sale for a Caulfield was this January, and I didn't remember the sale. So I don't know if and this was in Terapeak, $40,951 for his Skybox Metal Universe, the base PMG gold.
Wow.
The base, not the retro.
Yeah, that seems high. Holy cow.
That's a lot. I'm going to estimate the value based on that of, does 15 to 25,000 sound right? It seems like an awful lot for a Cole Caulfield card, but
when the first one up for the 190,000, a ridiculous amount, I was like, no, that's stupid. And then I saw 80 and I said, no, that still looks stupid. The first number that popped into my head was like 15. That's just the number I thought. And again, I'm not the greatest mind when it comes to valuing this stuff, but 15,000 to me seemed fair for a 101 Golden Treasures auto of the most hyped prospect in his rookie class, probably. Obviously, he's injured. So I think, or he wasn't injured, missed some time with shoulder stuff. But 15 was the number that popped into my head. So
there's been a number of big cards pulled that I've seen. Some orange checkers, a lot of seismic golds out there. We did a couple first sale posts today. Actually, I don't know if you saw those, Troy, but a seismic gold Caulfield went for $450 US, which the consensus from the Instagram peeps is that was a pretty fair, or a steal, a really low price. And then a Mo Sider Red Prism Rookie Auto, that's out of 60, went for $600 US. These are all raw. I think the big notes that I want to put out there for anyone buying these on the secondary market is check centering, of course, because that's been a big issue. You don't want to spend a few $100s on a card that's horribly off-centered. And you might want to ask questions and I've heard scratching on the surface, which these cards are prone to. When I was opening up our box, Troy, I especially noticed, and it's not going to matter because these are base cards always, but the first card in the pack had scratches. So there are scratches on some of them. And I think, if you're going to, like the Mo Sider is a great example. You're spending $600 on a raw card. That's a question I might ask the seller to disclose, especially on eBay, because doesn't their new policy work that if you ask them the question and they say, no, it's perfect, and then it's got a big scratch, you just automatically can get a refund at that point, right?
I always thought that was the policy, but I don't know.
Maybe it's not new, but yeah, sure. I think it's worth asking on the surface issue before you buy. Okay, it's time to do our value and collector ratings for extended series. Something I really look forward to now. Kind of look back and think about it. These are coming out so fast and furious. It's like, well, number one, it's hard to believe extended series only came out 3 weeks ago. Doesn't it feel like?
It feels like it was months upon months ago.
It's like 21 days or something. It's crazy. Extended, I think, for reasons that are earned and maybe some that are unearned, have, not the greatest perception in the hobby. It's got the lowest tier of Young Guns that you're going to have naturally in the 3 flagship releases that come out each year. So like I said, it's got a little bit of negative perception of the hobby. I think, though, that given the state or what's known about what the Young Guns checklist is going to be like, with 2022-23 extended, that Upper Deck understands this. And I feel like they put solid effort into building value into the set outside of the Young Guns cards. So in extended, you'll typically find retros, tributes, other inserts that give you kind of a different card for the season's top rookie. So instead of having 50 new Young Guns, they drop it to 30, and they try to give you more flavors of like a Matty Beniers or Slavkovsky, Boldy, Shane Wright type card. So you're not just pulling rookies of people you've never heard of, which I think is smart and definitely appreciated from the collector perspective. So we'll see cards like the Black Diamond inserts or SPX retro die cuts. They'll give you retro Young Guns, tribute Young Guns. So I think this year is 07-08 Young Guns were the retros again. And that's where we pulled our Matthias Michelli Young Guns exclusives, which is pretty awesome to get. They're trying stuff like they brought back the first round rookie design from 1990 Upper Deck set and applied them to the top 2022 rookies, like, again, Beniers, Boldy, Shane Wright, etc. The other thing I think that was really smart is they put a bunch of Easter eggs. So they always have like the tribute, the very short print Young Guns. What confused me, though, and I'm not sure, I want to ask Billy about this next time we talk to him, is that these Young Guns are for the 2021 guys. So they'd be like Cole Caulfield, Trevor Zegras, and they're going for big money. I think Caulfield went for $450 or something like that. So is that really a rookie card?
Yeah.
If it's in the 2022 set, this is where you get those really tough questions. It's like, gosh, I'm going to spend $500 on this. I'm not sure if it's a rookie. When you look at the Young Guns checklist, we knew it would be pretty weak. Well, first of all, the 2022 class isn't great to begin with, and it's pretty much played out that way, Troy. So I'm just looking at current values. You have kind of two guys that have any sort of value in the secondary market. We have Kirill Marchenko, whose Young Guns is still 3 weeks out, about $20 raw. Jonathan Bergeron at $17 raw. And other guys like Adurati is like $6. So, I mean, it's a big drop after Bergeron. And then Juuso Parssinen like $4. Again, just not a lot of star power. The big hit, though, seems to be the Young Guns acetates. Yep. We've already had 3 of those sell for more than $1,000. So Juraj Slavkovsky's one is sold for $1,100, and then you have Shane Wright, Owen Power at $1,000 each. And then the Smooth Grooves is starting. I think that's an acetate card. There's a gold spectrum out of 25. A Slavkovsky sold for $500.
Oh, wow.
Big number for out of 25. I mentioned the Caulfield 0102 Retro Tribute Young Gun that sold for $450. There's a Slavkovsky Black Diamond Emerald Auto that sold for $444 US. Pretty big numbers. I see right now, after 21 days, 143 sales for more than $100 US. Again, the box is about the box cost. Yep. I think the crux of the extended series, or the crux of the issue, is maybe the perception, is it worse than reality? I see so many people that really poo-poo extended.
I mean, I get it. I get it. I get it from the Young Guns. If you're all about Young Guns, then you poo-poo it. But the other stuff that were the Easter eggs, I actually kind of listed out all the Easter eggs I found or that have been announced so far. That's the stuff that excites me and I think is kind of getting a lot of love.
Well, going back to the acetates, which have been the biggest chase and biggest hit, not a lot of products you can 10x on a card, right? I mean, $100 what other $100 box are you pulling huge monster cards out of? So that's part of when we get into the value and collector rating, is just like with OPG Platinum, as much as I love the Platinum set, I just love it. I hate the $200 price. In this case, the $100 price to me works in the favor of extended series. So, so that's my little background on extended. Oh, last thing too, for what it's worth, it's the last of the old flagship configuration. So rest in peace, old flagship configuration. Now we're on to Series 1, and we'll have the 12-pack, 12 card per pack boxes. So we'll frickin' frack here. This again, we'll do both our value ratings and then our collector ratings. For value rating, Troy, I'm going to give it a 7.0. A month ago, I would have predicted I was firmly in the poo-poo extended camp. Like, I was not looking forward to this. Because, like you just said, I was looking at it only through the lens of the Young Guns checklist. I'm like, holy smokes, this is no bueno. This is bad. Who are these people?
Yep.
And again, if that's, like you said, if that's your measuring stick, then this is probably not a product for you at all. But I keep coming back to the $100 price per box and the valuable cards that you can hit, even beyond the acetates, which are a super tough chase. So if you're buying it, just hit one of those. Good luck. But you have these numbered retros, tributes, parallels. I mentioned like the Smooth Grooves at $500 for out of 25 for Slavkovsky. That's a really strong price, and you got a lot of these numbered young guns, and I think even like the first round draft picks are numbered. They have clear cut parallels of all of them. So there's a lot of opportunities to hit at least one decent card, I think, per box. And admittedly, the biggest factor for me in giving this product a 7 value rating is that rookie class. And that has nothing to do with Upper Deck, but I might even go higher, like 7.5 or 8. If it was like the 2020, you put the 2021 class in this product, I think it's a lot more exciting. And then I even take that to look forward to next year. I really hope that they're able to build on the momentum of this. Like if they made just a couple more tweaks and made a couple of the cards better, and then I'm super hopeful because we know Connor Bedard and Fantilli probably are going to be Series 2 Young Guns. I really, really hope that they do not put their Canvas Young Guns in Series 2.
Move them to extend or
put their
extended.
Canvas Young Guns in extended. It's going to make and they kind of build on what the vibe that they got going with the product. I think it could be a huge chase come next summer or whenever the heck it comes out. So I'm going to give it a 7 value rating. What's your value rating?
I went with a 6, but now and that's because I just haven't had a lot of experience with extended. I didn't buy any boxes. I plan to, but looking at your analysis and I didn't realize there was that many big sales. That surprised me. Again, the Young Guns, you look at it from a Young Guns perspective, it's terrible, but I actually probably will go up to a 7 for my value rating, given the data you put on it. It's very enticing. Again, I love all the hidden Easter eggs or unannounced stuff, which I'll get into in the collector rating aspect, but I will go with a 7.
Then on the collector's rating, I give it an 8. I'm a sucker for boxes that just have a lot of variety and a lot of interesting. I'm a huge shiny card fan, and there's a bunch of shiny cards in here. There's some expert analysis for you. Me like shiny cards.
I want shiny stuff, please.
A lot of these cards aren't going to make you rich, but again, the hobby is about collecting too. And we got to be careful at times not to equate everything back to the secondary market value. Like a good example is I really like the SPX die cut this year from them. They're just super cool. And they've got like some almost like foiling over them or like a sheen to them that I don't know. I just really appreciate. I don't think unless you get like a really low numbered one that they're going to be worth much. But again, just super cool cards. I've always loved the holographics card. I'm very excited this year that they actually made it a little bit of a worse odds to get one. And yeah, they've just got, Dazzlers are always cool. They're not worth a lot, but you get them and extended like all the other flagship series. And I just go back again to the $100 price. You get a lot, man, when you're buying a $400 box and you get a bunch of cool cards that are worthless, it hurts. When you get a $100 box and you get $50 worth of cards, but they're players you like and they're cards you think are cool and that you're happy to have in your collection, then I'm more okay with that. So I'm going to give it a collector's rating of 8.
Awesome. So like Josh said, I am actually also a huge fan of the variety of cards in the set. I just love how this product went from blah to actually having fun cards in it. And again, I am a sucker for the unannounced stuff, the Easter eggs. And I tried to write down all the ones that I've seen. It looks like we got clear-cut exclusives, penalty box photo variations, Young Guns acetate, 2001-02 Upper Deck, Young Guns retros. There's base snow spray autographs. And I think the last one I saw was NHL Specialists. We're all unannounced. Here's an idea.
That's pretty awesome.
Here's an idea. Do you think extended, they just do this? Here's the base. Here's the Young Guns. Everything else is unannounced. And you're going to be surprised when we release it. I wonder if that.
What about a whole set? Call it NHL Easter egg.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Where the whole set is unannounced. It's just kind of all these like weird, crazy, random cards. Well, interesting too that you put the clear cut exclusives. This is the last set of those.
Yeah.
Because remember, that's one that's being discontinued with Series 1
and
next year.
I will say this. I totally must have missed these, or maybe I just forgot about them. The collector's choice cards, I absolutely love those, where it's 3 cards and you put them together and it's like one big card. It's almost like a puzzle. I totally missed those when we must have talked about it on the sell sheet. I didn't realize what they were. I love those cards. They're not a lot of them. There's like Kaprizov, Dave McDavid, Matthews, Zegras. I want to go get the Kaprizov one. I think they look fantastic when you get all 3 and put them together. They're not expensive, so easily attainable, and they look cool, I think. Now, my collector rating, I said 8. I'm actually going to go up. I'm going up the half, the thing I hate the most about any grading scale. I'm going 8.5 because I just want to be a half point higher than you. I don't know why. But
Okay.
I'm actually...
It's your superiority complex.
Yeah, superiority complex. And I actually really I just love how it went from nothing to something. That's how I want to put it.
There's a big advantage that you and I get in the work we have to do for the show and the amount of research. Like one more example of this, I was looking today, Troy, at the sales in this checklist. And one of the things I found that I just hadn't paid attention to is there's a canvas card for Howie Morenz, the early 1900s Canadian star that we called like the first Connor Bedard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, just kind of really cool stuff like that I think you get in extended that you're probably not going to get in Series 1 or Series 2. And I think that's a card that I'm going to target and try to buy. So that's our Valiant Collector ratings for Extended Series. If you want to give us your thoughts, feel free to message us on any of our social media channels. Last thing in hobby or new product releases is a reminder that 2022-23 Synergy releases this Wednesday, of course. Because they come out.
We had that discussion. I'm like, awesome. What? I'm like, didn't Synergy? I thought Synergy just came out. Oh, wait, that was last year or whatever.
And US boxes are pre-selling around 100 US, 140 Canadian. Troy did an in-depth breakdown of the checklist on our last show, so episode 93. If you're interested in Synergy for 2022-23, be sure to check that out. We're going to end the show. I'm going to say like we always do, because we used to always. But we rarely do anymore with personal pickups. Been a little bit more active lately, so happy to report we have some few pickups to mention. Nothing too crazy, but run through them quick. I did buy an Ovechkin gold medallions out of 200 off of ComC for 2021 Fleer Ultra. I'm just really digging the medallions cards. And like we mentioned, they look a million times better in person. And I thought it would be kind of a cool Ovi card to own. Then I've been doing some trades on my card post, which has been a lot of fun. Really kind of ramping that up. So I picked up a Scotty Perunovich draft day mark. Scotty's from my hometown in northern Minnesota. It's kind of cool to get that card. Then I traded a Brian Leach all-time Future Watch auto from SP Legends for a 2017 The Cup Clayton Keller signature materials. It's rookie year. I'm not sure if they qualify as a rookie card. I'm showing it to Troy. Nice. That's pretty cool. Very cool. And Keller had such a good year. I thought, maybe he's worth banking on. And then, man, I wish we had Biznasty Bissonette here because I did.
Oh, nice.
If I were to collect one card, it would be the Seismic Golds, the Jesper Bratt. Troy, you do it better than me. Do it.
Jesper Bratt.
So made some trades for that on my card post. You can sign up for free. Their subscriptions are really small. And Mark from my card post was on the Cards to the Moon podcast, and really interesting, again, to listen to him speak there. And then I did a big trade, my last one on MCP. This one hurt a little bit. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it hurts to do trades. So I had a 2003 Upper Deck Superstar Exclusives Kobe Bryant out of 100 PSA 10 that I really like. It's a Kobe. It's nowhere near a rookie year, but it's out of 100, early 2000s. But I just like the cart. But I got an offer for a 2005 Upper Deck Sidney Crosby rookie class BGS 10. So it's a pristine. It's a pop 55. Now, rookie class is not the most exotic or prestigious rookie card, although I think it is technically a rookie card. But it was the pop 55 and the BGS 10 label that kind of tipped me over the edge. They're both worth about the same amount of money. So, yeah, that one hurt. But I'm excited to get the Crosby, too. That's my personal pickup. Oh, and then I picked up on eBay, a 1998 OPC Chrome Jaromir Jagr Puck Providers Refractor.
Nice.
What did you get, Troy?
So
Besides a puppy,
for hockey cards, I got a 2011 Panini Limited Pekka Rinne Crease Cleaners auto out of 99. Looks really cool. I'd never seen him before, so I thought, whoa, that looks awesome. It's got a nice auto, got the crease, picture of Pekka, got it super cheap. Again, that's the one thing I love about collecting Pekka Rinne. I really don't, you're not going to pay too much unless you decide to buy all three of the patch cards that I bought.
You're the David Chow of Pekka Rinne.
Yeah.
And Leslie Snipes. What did he say?
Yeah.
Les Edwards.
Yeah. I definitely have on the Pekka Rinne market, I guess. And then besides buying Slap Sharks out of Marvel Allure boxes, that was my pickups.
Did you get the email I sent you today?
Oh, yeah, I did. I already have. I don't have that one. I probably should look at that. It's a Pekka Rinne.
$10.
Seismic Gold. I'm sure someone will get it before I do.
Okay. Well, that's our show for today. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Reminder, we're going to be live Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time covering the hockey hobby and the NHL Draft. So check us out on our YouTube channel, Hockey Cards Gongshow. If you love the show and want to support us and want to chat with us on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join one of our last out of 99 support level tiers on Patreon. The link is in the show description within our Instagram profile, or you can search for Hockey Cards Gongshow on the Patreon website. That's patreon.com. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC.